Hello, my name is Salman, and I want to talk to you about IoT on AWS. Quick agenda for the video. First, I'll quickly talk about IoT. This video is focused on hands-on building, so I'm not going to do a deep dive into IoT as a technology, but I'll link some resources below if you want to learn more. Right after that, we'll jump into the console and we'll start building. So let's begin with a quick introduction. AWS provides a ton of services to help customers build serverless IoT applications that interact with their different connected devices. The biggest value proposition here is that customers don't have to manage the underlying infrastructure, which means that you can reduce your costs and increase your productivity and innovation. In 2022, the number of connected IoT devices grew to 14.4 billion. That number is expected to grow exponentially alongside the number of jobs in the field. In 2022, global consulting firm McKinsey found that the biggest barrier to IoT adoption was skill shortages in the workforce. So the number of jobs were outpacing the supply of IoT engineers. And one of the main barriers to learning about IoT was the costs that are associated with purchasing IoT hardware. So we're going to talk about that. Today, we're going to be focusing on a tool called the IoT Device Simulator. IoT Device Simulator is designed to help customers more easily test device integrations and IoT backend services without needing to purchase physical devices, which are expensive. The solution provides a web-based graphic user interface, which allows customers to create and simulate hundreds of connected devices without having to configure and manage physical devices or develop time-consuming custom scripts. The solution is designed to work out of the box, but can also be customized to your specific needs. Basically, IoT Device Simulator provides a web interface that lets users launch fleets of virtually connected devices from templates and then simulate that data being pushed into AWS at regular intervals. I'll link the documentation to it so that you can read more about it. But this, like I mentioned, is a hands-on video. So let's just jump directly into the console. This video is based on a blog that I published on serverless land. So go and check that out. Here, I have all of the steps that I'm going to walk you through here documented. You can follow those there or stick along and we'll walk through those together. All you need to be able to follow along with this video is an AWS account and an understanding of the costs that are associated with building. So they're not significant, but I'll show them real quick just so you have an idea. It should be over here at the top. So if this is run 6 hours per day, your total monthly cost is going to be about $3.05. So it's very small. If you just build it and spin it down at the end of the video, then you're not going to have anything beyond a couple cents. All right, let's jump into the console and start building. We will begin by creating the IoT device simulator that we looked at. So to do that, we need to go to CloudFormation. So if you have that recently visited, you'll have that there. Otherwise, you can just go here and search CloudFormation. And there you go. And here, you'll probably have nothing if you haven't used this spin up other stacks. Go to Create Stack with New Resources. This is the default option, but make sure it's selected. And then go to Upload File Template. And here, you're going to go to this link right here. And you're going to find the template downloaded. Alternatively, you can also look in the description of the video. I will put that link in there. So download that and then come back into your console and then come over here and upload it. Select the file, should be in your downloads. And then click next. Then you're going to enter stack name. You can just do IoT-device-sim or simulator, whatever, doesn't really matter. And then here, it requires an administrator email. So I would just recommend using your regular Gmail. Not really important. I'm not going to put mine here for privacy reasons, but then you click next, and then you're going to be met with this page. You don't have to do anything here. click next once again. All you have to do is click this acknowledgement here and then click submit. I'm not going to do that because I've already done that in preparation for the video. It should take about a couple of minutes. So pause the video and then come back. You'll receive an email at the email that you entered in earlier telling you when it's ready. Or alternatively, you can go to CloudFormation here, and under stacks, it'll show you when it's complete. So once it's complete, you will receive a email, and inside of that email, you're going to receive a username and password along with a link. It'll look something like this. You'll click to that link, you'll enter in your username, which is just your email, and then the password that they provided to you. And when you do that, it's going to ask you to create a custom password. So it's going to ask you to overwrite the default one that they gave you, and then you will sign in. Once you sign in, you'll be met with this page right here. So this is the home page. It'll say that there's no simulations, which makes sense. And that's where we're going to start. So here we're going to create our simulation to simulate the device. But before we do that, we need to create a device type or a device category. So we'll go here and we will add a device type. Under the type, you can just choose whatever kind of device you want to do. You can do a solar panel, a battery, it doesn't really matter, right? For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to do a turbine. And then here you're going to select the topic to which the data is going to be sent to. If you're not familiar with what a topic is, it's just a tunnel where your data will be sent from here into AWS IoT. So let me go here and show that real quick. So if you go to IoT Core, you can go here to MQTT test client, and here, if you subscribe or publish to a topic, you'll be able to see those results coming here. So this will allow the data to come from our IoT device simulator into IoT Core. So we're going to go with turbine, and be careful with spelling here. It's important. TurbineMQQT. And then we will add some attributes. So here, let's begin with just an identification attribute. We'll do ID. And they'll have, you can just leave the default here. It's not particularly important. And then we can add another attribute here, which we will call RPM. We will make this an integer for simplicity's sake. And this is not reflective of a real RPM on a turbine, but just for testing purposes. You can do a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 500. Click save. And then we'll add another attribute just so we have a couple in here. We'll do voltage. We'll do the same thing, integer. You could do any random numbers you want here, but I'll do that. So we have our ID, our RPM, revolutions per minute, I think, and then voltage. You can add as many of these as you want. I'll just leave it there for simplicity's sake, and then I'll click save. So there we have our turbine MQTT and our turbine device type created. All right, so now we have our turbine device type created. So let's actually create some devices. So we're going to go over here into simulations, and we're going to add a simulation. So we'll just call this turbine west, sticking with the turbine theme, right? Pretending that this is the most west turbine on our wind farm. Leave simulation type as user created, and then under device type, do turbine, which is that type that we created earlier. And then for the number of devices, you can choose any number between 1 and 100. I'll just do 50. Remember that, there are associated costs with this. So if you leave this running forever and you have 100 devices, it's going to cost slightly more than if you have, one device running. So as long as you clean up afterwards, which we will cover, you should have no problems. So choose whatever number you want between 1 and 100 there. And then for data transmission interval, we will do 1 one message every second, and then the duration, I like to make it a little bit longer just so that I have time to see it in the various places that we're going to be sending the data. So I will do 1200 seconds, but you can do as long as you want or as short as you want. Next, we will simulate the data just so that we can make sure that this works. So let's go here, and then we will start the simulation, and this should switch to running, right? So we'll go back into our AWS console and make sure that you're in IoT Core. If not, just search it up here and you'll find it. Go over here to MQTT test client. And then remember that we've had that subscription from earlier, and we can see that there's data that is coming in. So very nice. If you click this heart, it saves them. That way you don't have to keep entering it in. But if you don't have it, just feel free to enter that in there. And MQTT, and then turbine, oops, T, and you'll get the same results that you have here. So what we're seeing here is that our data is coming in, which is wonderful, which means now all we have to do is we have to configure our AWS console to be able to send this into another service that is called AWS Timestream, which is great for organizing time stream data. And then we can use that for whatever visualizations that you want. I will link the information on AWS Timestream below if you want to read it. But essentially, it's just a database for storing time series data, and it's great for this specific use case. So let's do that. First, let's pause our IoT device simulator here. We can stop that. It'll take a second, and we can go back into our console. So in order to configure IoT Core to send this to AWS Timestream, we have to set up something called a routing rule. All right. So to send the data from IoT Core into Timestream, our time series database, so that we can interact with it, we need to configure something called a routing rule. So we're going to do that here. And you can see I have a couple here. I'm just going to delete these so that we're on the same page. And we will create a new rule. Here, we can call it all simulated data to time stream. Doesn't really matter what you call it. And best practice is always to add a description. So we'll do that, sending simulated data to time stream. Okay, click next. Then here you have to configure an SQL statement, which is just a mechanism for filtering the data that is coming in from that topic that we set up earlier. You don't have to know SQL here. I will paste a sample query in the chat below. So feel free to just copy that if you're not familiar with SQL, or if you have customized some things so far in this video, make those adjustments. So it's just going to say select assetId as ID, RPM, and voltage. Those are the three things that we set up from the TurbineMQQT topic. So pretty straightforward. And make sure that you've spelled that correct. A lot of the problems that we see here are because there's a difference between the topic that you're requesting here and the topic that you've created in your simulation device. So make sure that these line up, or else you're going to have issues where there's no data coming through. So then we're going to click next, and we're going to set up an action. So under this action, you can just type timestream table, and you'll have a timestream table coming up here, right? But we haven't created one yet. So let's go do that. Let's go to AWS, create another tab here, and just open new tab here. Go to your console, and then go to Amazon Timestream, or you can search it here, Timestream. Click that. It'll take you into the service, and then you'll go to databases, and we'll create a database. So here, we'll just call this TurbineDB, Turbine Database, and we don't have to mess with anything else. We'll just create that. Then inside of that, we have to create some tables. We should have no tables since we just created this. So let's do that. Create a table, and we'll do turbine. We'll call it turbineTable. And then here, you can just leave the partition key as default. Doesn't really matter. And click create. Now we have a location to be able to send our data into it. So we'll go here, and there we have turbine database, which is what we just created, and we'll have our turbineTable, which we also just created. And here are the dimensions that we want to include. These are metadata attributes that are time series data point. So it's not particularly important here, but let's just create one called topic, or here we'll create one called telemetry asset type, and we'll call it telemetry, and then we'll create a second dimension, and we'll call that telemetry asset ID, and we will make that topic. All of this is, it's a function that returns the topic that the specific message was associated with. So in the future, it might be nice to be able to track what topic that specific data point came in on. So configure this, pause if you have to, and make sure all of the data lines up. And then you can add a timestamp option if you want here. Doesn't really matter. And then here you need to create a role to be able to grant IoT to permissions to send data into Timestream. So if you just create a new role, you can call it whatever you want. I think I already have one created called core to Timestream. But if you just type this thing and create new role, it'll automatically create that role and then fill it in here. Then click next. Review that all of this is correct, that you spelled everything accurately, and then hit create. So now we've created a rule to get our data from IoT Device Simulator into IoT Core, and then from there, this rule will filter the data and using that SQL that we put in and send it into the table that we've configured here. So all that's left to do, this is a home stretch, is to check to make sure that works. So let's go back into our device simulator and turn that simulator on. We'll go here. And we will start the simulation. Should start up pretty quickly. And we will come back here. And just to make sure that it's still running, let's come back here and check. And yep, we're getting in data from all of the different 50 devices that we've configured. So let's go into Timestream and see if we're getting that data. To do that, we have to go to this query editor under the management tools. So under here, go make sure that you have the turbine database selected. It should auto select it for you, but make sure that you have that if you have other tables. And then you're going to type a query here to be able to search the data. If you know SQL, go ahead, knock yourself out. Otherwise, you can just use the sample query that I have attached here. Let me paste it in. So here we have select star means all from turbine database, which is our database, turbine database, and then into our turbineTable where the time is between 60 minutes ago and now with descending order. So we'll run it and it'll start scanning and you can see we're getting our data back. So perfect. So we built a IoT device simulator we sent that data into IoT Core using a topic, and then we configured a rule here to send data into Timestream, where we were able to query it and interact with it. And now it's ready for us to build any sort of visualization that we want to attach to it. Now, if you want to go to that next step, there's a ton of documentation on different visualization tools that you can use. Popular ones are Grafana and QuickSight for AWS. There's a ton of videos that you can watch online on how you can do that. Alternatively, if you want me to make a video continuing from where we are right now and showing how you can connect those visualizations, I can do that. Just let me know in the comments. Thanks. I hope this was useful.